Okay, so we're doing another video on Civil 3D. This is the second video. We are going to build on the first video in which we learned to import points, change codes, move points and lines. That's what we did in the first video. The second video will build on that. We'll also create surfaces, and we'll learn how to join line work that were captured in 2 different days. So like a multi-day topo. So let me bring up our template in L survey work, Civil 3D, land. That's our template right here. I'll double click on it. It says you can only open it in read only. Yes, that's what we want. Then we'll need to save it as a different drawing. I'm going to save this on my desktop and call it slope topo. If you remember from the first video, you go to the survey tab here in the tool space. You right click on survey databases, select new local survey database. I'll just call this slope topo. Once that's done, it adds it to the list here. To import the points, you select import events, right click and import survey data. Hit next on this window. Click the plus sign to select our points file. I saved mine on the desktop. It's called slope.csv. Hit open, and it's usually intuitive enough to automatically select the right file format, which is point number, northern, eastern elevation, and description. So you hit next, next here, and then finish. It'll import the points and automatically draw the line work, just like before. So you go up to the Prospector tab. In point groups, you right click and you update. Just like before, if we need to change any codes, that's the first thing that we do. So I happen to do miscoded one on purpose. It's on top of this concrete slab here. This is supposed to be a sign, and our code for sign is SIGN. This was miscoded as SIG. So you select the point, you go up to the ribbon to survey point properties, and then you change the description to the correct description. So I'll type in sign, I'll hit OK, and hit enter on the keyboard. And for any changes to take place, you have to hit yes, where it says, would you like to update the line work? Even though there's no line work here that we're changing, for you to be able to see this change, you need to update the line work. So you hit yes, and then OK. And then it should change that to a sign, and it gives a proper block for our sign. Let's see. Another thing that we can do right now, since we're changing codes, is connecting line work that are done on 2 different days or multiple days. So let's just pretend this topo was done in 2 days. And this bottom half here was done on 1 day. And this upper half here was done on the next day. So let's pretend the crew ends their line work at this location on the first day. So you have the suffix E to end the line work for these points. And then the next day you start back up and you work your way north. So you start your line work with B. So we need to connect this line work here, connect this line work here, and this line work here. And there are a couple of ways to do that. I'll show you the first way. One is by changing the codes. So you click the point where you want it to connect to the next line. And then up on the ribbon, you select Survey Point Properties, where we change our codes. So this is where it ended, and we want it to connect to point number 101. And the way that you do that is you click in the description, add a space bar, and then CPN for connect point number, and then the point number without a space. So from point 87, we're going to connect to point number 101 with no spaces. So you hit OK here, press enter on your keyboard. Like I said, you won't see any changes until you update the line work, so you hit yes, and then OK. And then you'll see that the line work connects the two together from the previous day to the next day. That's one way of connecting lines. There's another way. This doesn't involve the codes, but it involves the survey figure. So every line work that's automatically created in Civil 3D is called a survey figure. So we're going to edit this survey figure so that it connects to that point. And the way that you do that is to select that survey figure, go up to the ribbon and up to survey figure properties. And then it'll highlight the line that you selected. And it gives you a direction, it shows you direction arrows. So this survey figure starts here and ends here. So I'm going to go to the end of the survey figure, which is point 89. I'm going to select it from this window. And then one of these options says to insert a vertex after the selected vertex. So we're going to select a point that it'll connect to after the selected point. So I'm going to insert that vertex after this selected vertex. Click on that. As you can see, it adds a blank line after that last point. So you can either type in that next point number here by double clicking, and it's point number 104. That's one way of doing it. Or you can select it from the drawing by selecting this arrow. So if I click on this arrow, it'll let me pan and select the point that I want to connect to. So I will do it that way here. Click on this point, and then hit OK. And then now I've got my survey figures connected, whereas before there was a gap. The other way of doing it, instead of adding it to the end of a line, is adding it before a line. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to select this survey figure. And I'm going to go back up to survey figure properties. Once again, it'll show the direction sign. So this survey figure starts at the south and moves north. But I want to connect this southerly point to a point even southerly of that. So I'm going to put it at the beginning of the line of the survey figure. So I go to the first number on the survey figure, and I'm going to select this one. It should say insert a vertex before the selected vertex. So we're going to add the line before the selected vertex. So I'm going to click that button. And once again, it adds a blank line before the first point in that survey figure. So once again, you can either manually enter the point number here, or in this case, I'm going to select this arrow so I can manually select it from the drawing. So this line, I want it to connect to this point, so I'll select this point and then hit OK. And then now I've got the lines connected. So once I've got the lines connected from multiple days, I can, and all my codes are correct, I can now move points if I need to. So I did that on purpose here. I made purposely cross these two break lines. So this is an edge of rock, and this is a rock grade change. And you should never have break lines crossing each other. So this edge of rock actually needs to be moved to this side of the rock grade change. So if you remember from the first video, the way that you unlock the drawings to be able to move them is to go back into your tool space in the survey tab. go back to your CSV, which we called slope.csv here. Right click on it, go down to points, and then unlock in drawing. So now we're able to move anything that's in the drawing. So we're going to move this grade break and this point over to the other side. And you can do that two ways. You can either select the point and then select the line. Go to the middle node there, click it, and then click on the other side of the line. That's one way of doing it. The other way of selecting is doing a crossing selection where you select on the bottom right to the upper left, making sure you only cross the items that you want to select. You don't want to select this additional line or this additional point. Just make sure that you touch the items that you want to move. So I'm going to select here so that both my point and my line is highlighted. Go back to the node, click on it, and then click on the other side of the line so that now we don't have crossing break lines. Hit escape. So what we've done so far is we've changed the code. We've connected lines in a couple of different ways, and we've moved the points. The reason why I say you should move the points at the very end is because now, if you were to want to change a code, it doesn't give you that ability to do so. If you click on this point, you no longer have the survey point properties available to you. Once you unlock the points in the drawing, that option is no longer available to you. So you want to change all the codes, connect the lines as needed, and then at the very end, if you need to move anything, that's when you do it. So up next, we're going to create a surface. And the way that you do that is you go back to your tool space, go to the Prospector tab, and you see this under this menu here, you see a surfaces label, not to be confused with the point group surface. As you can see, we have different point groups under the point group label with a surface point group. This is not the surface that you're creating. It's the one that has a little mesh next to it. So you right click on the surface, on surfaces, and create a surface. You give it a name up here. In this case, I'll just call it slope, and then hit OK. So if you expand the surfaces menu now, you'll have the slope surface that you just created. It's an empty surface. It contains nothing yet. All it has is a name. So what we're going to do is we're going to add two things. We're going to add points, and we're going to add these break lines to create our surface. So let's start with the points. You expand the slope, your surface. You expand definition underneath that. You scroll down to point groups, and then you right click on it and select add. This is where you select that surface point group. And just to let you know, a surface point group includes all the codes for points that belong on the ground with the surface, like your ACs, CMB, concrete. Everything that's on the ground with a code should be in this point group. So we're going to add those points that are on the ground to our surface. By right-clicking on point groups, you add your surface point group, and then you hit OK. So as you can see, contours are made. You have a surface with points in it. This is extra stuff that shouldn't belong in your surface. The limits of your topo is this edge of dirt here. So it triangulated between these 2 points and everything in between. So we'll clean that up later. But for now, we're going to add break lines to our surface. Like I said earlier, we add 2 things to our surface, points and break lines. So we've added the points. Now we'll add the break lines. And how you do that is you go up to layer properties. Under all the layers, you right click on it and go to visibility and turn all the layers off. And then you go to this surface label here, right click on it and select on. This surface layer group has all the line work for all the layers that are on the ground. Very similar to the point groups. This has all the line work that should be on the ground, and we've turned them on. So when I close this, everything that appears here should be the line work for everything that's on the ground. And these are the break lines that we're going to add to our surface. So you go back to your tool space. Under break lines, you're going to click on it and right click and add. You can give it a description if you want. I'll just call it the break lines and hit OK. Now it says select objects down here. We're going to select all these break lines. So what I did was I did a crossing selection. I clicked from the bottom right to the upper left to select all our break lines. And then you hit enter on the keyboard. And then go back to your layer properties. Go back to all the layer groups. Right click on it. Visibility. We're going to turn all the layers back on. Okay, I typed in RE for regen because sometimes the surface doesn't show up right away. So if you type in RE, that's the shortcut keys for regen. You're regenerating the drawing. And now we should have the break lines added to our drawing. So the very last thing we need to do, as you can see, the green line out here shows the border of your surface. And like we mentioned earlier, this should be blank. Your surface should just reach this border, the edge of dirt border, down to the bottom of these rocks on your slope. So the way that we do that is we need to show triangles so that we can delete the triangles that are in here. So you go back to your tool space in the Prospector tab, back to your slope. You select your surface, whatever you called it. I called it slope. You right click on it, go down to surface properties, and we're going to change the surface style. We're going to change it to show the triangles. And in this case, it's contours and triangles. So you hit OK. Now all your triangles should show up. And you'll see all the triangles and how it triangulates to all your points. So we're going to delete these triangles. There's a couple of ways to do it. You select your surface, any triangle, you just select. The ribbon changes up here so that edit surface is available to you. You press that down arrow under edit surface, and you're going to delete the line. You can delete a line individually like this. I selected it and then press enter. Select another line and then press enter. Or you can do a crossing selection like we've done before. So I'll zoom in here. I want to delete all these triangles. Remember, this is the border of our surface. So I'm going to click from the bottom right to the upper left. And it highlights all the triangles that I don't want. I hit enter. And then now, if I hit escape, and escape again, the green border of my surface now shows correctly. It's not triangulating in between any points that I don't want it to triangulate. Like I mentioned earlier, when we selected our break lines, it didn't include the chain link fence. Sometimes when we shoot the fence, we just lift the rod up to the top of the fence. So it's not always a ground shot. So it's not automatically added to the surface layer group. There's no chain link fence here, no CLF. So once we have that done, you've created your surface. We'll change our surface style back to the regular contours without the triangles. So you go back to your surface here. You right click on it, select surface properties, and then you change your surface style. You can select Pola contours 1 foot and 5 foot existing, and then hit OK. That's our default setting, is 1 foot and 5 foot contours. So now you're done with your drawing. You've brought in the points, moved anything that you had to move, changed codes, created a surface. If you wanted to take a three-dimensional look at your surface, just select any of the contours, right-click, and select Object Viewer, or you can escape, select your surface again, and up in the Ribbon tab, you have that Object Viewer available to you as well. So you hit the Object Viewer, a new window pops up. You make sure that on the upper left, you select Conceptual, and then you can drag your drawing so that it shows your rock slope. As you can see, it drew it really well. There's a couple of concrete pads. This is the one that had the sign on it. And you're just looking to make sure that there are no spikes, in which case it would have been a rod bust if you had a spike or something spiking underneath it. But in this case, everything was shot perfectly. Surface looks good, so I'll close this window. And then just hit Escape, and then you're done with your drawing. You just hit Save. And then on the next video, we'll show how to create the paper space, the Layout tab, where we actually put it into like a plotted paper. Until then, just keep practicing with this. Like I said, you can watch it over and over, practice along with it. You know, you can stop and pause it as you do each step. And if you have any questions, you let me know.